Hello, everybody. Today, I wanted to talk about fat loss supplements that actually work because there are a lot of different supplements on the market claiming to help you burn fat or help you to lose weight rapidly. And there's a lot of those that are just straight up not really accurate, or don't want to say lying, but like not very truthful. So I want to share with you not only the fat loss supplements that can help to support a fat loss journey, but also ones that will help to support the other aspects of your wellness goals too. So we're going to be going over all that in today's live stream. I'm also going to be sharing, I believe it's 9 of the supplements that you might want to consider if fat loss is your goal. Okay, now if you guys aren't aware, we are in week 4 of the summer challenge, which is absolutely like bonkers. I can't believe it's going by so quickly. This challenge, we're completely focused on body composition, burning fat while maintaining muscle, and really optimizing for the fat loss, but while also eating the most nutrient dense foods in the world. So really focusing on the foods that help to nourish the body and to help support a long-term fat loss goal. We are following the limited release 6-week summer meal plan for this challenge. So if you guys haven't grabbed that, it has over 50 brand new recipes that are so delicious and use these exact type of foods that help to support these goals and are tasty, amazing, and very simple. It is a limited release program, so we only have it available on the shop for, I believe, a couple more weeks. And then once it's gone, it's gone. It's linked down description below if you guys want to check it out. So many science-backed details and tips to help you achieve your goals while also making sure that you're fueling your body and nourishing it properly too. So if you guys want to check that out, link down description below. But otherwise, let's just dive into the details for today. Okay, so why use supplements in the first place? That's like the first thing we need to like figure out and consider, because not everybody needs to use a supplement, and there are certain considerations for when a supplement would be necessary. So supplements, it might seem like obvious, but we can often forget. Supplements are meant to support. I'm not sure if you guys can hear my chickens in the background. Let me know in the chat if you can. Supplements are meant to support your diet, not replace your diet. So they're really necessary, necessary if your diet is missing certain nutrients, if you have higher than usual nutrient needs, which we're going to be talking about those in just a second. Maybe you have poor absorption of nutrients. So this could be like if you have some gut health issues that make it difficult for you to like digest and absorb certain nutrients in the body. And then to support a temporary condition or state. We're going to talk about all those in just a second. So like a common example would be like the sunlight example, which I want to give a quick pause here and just remind everyone, if you do have questions, I answer questions at the end. So just put 4 question marks before and after your question, and I'll get to those at the end. Makes it easier for me to find them when I go to answer questions. Anyway, back to the sunlight example. So most people are vitamin D deficient. You've probably been told that you're vitamin D deficient. If you've ever gotten it tested, it's likely that you are. It's actually like less common to not be vitamin D deficient. And we get vitamin D, or we make vitamin D rather, from sunlight exposure. But it's often unrealistic to get the amount of sunlight that you need in order to maintain those healthy vitamin D levels, depending on where you live, your job, or time of year. So that's where a supplement makes sense, to supplement your diet with that. Other examples would be like if you're an athlete. So if you're an athlete, you fall into that category, or if you're just somebody who's like exercising more, you're more active, your job's more active, you fall into that category where you have higher energy demands and also higher recovery demands. So having something like magnesium or electrolytes, creatine, protein powder, omega-3 to support the especially the higher inflammation going on if you are an athlete, to help reduce that. All of these would make sense if you are an athlete, versus if you are pregnant. I was recently pregnant, just had my second baby, Jack, and I was experiencing all this where I had those higher energy and nutrient requirements. So I was taking a prenatal at the time that covered these increased needs, because it can just be hard to get all of that from your diet when you have these states of accelerated needs. So a multivitamin / prenatal, folate, choline, iron, DHA, increased protein intake, all of that makes sense when you're pregnant. Versus if you are over the age of 60, this is another specific use case where we see faster muscle breakdown, faster bone breakdown, worsened digestion is very common, or worsened nutrient absorption, worsened insulin sensitivity. So some of the things, if you are over the age of 60, that you might be considering are things like protein powder for helping with the muscle and bone breakdown, vitamin D3 and K2 for the bone health as well, and then perhaps a multivitamin because you are experiencing the the state where you don't digest and absorb nutrients as well. So what about fat loss specifically? Because that's like a completely different state. That's a different consideration. We have other things we need to factor in. So, some of the things that we need to factor in or to consider if fat loss is the goal is potentially increased muscle loss, potentially increase in demands from exercise. So, especially if you are historically in a very low calorie state, that's where muscle loss is something you need to factor in. Or if you are exercising to support your fat loss goal, then the increased demands from that needs to be factored in. Potential slowing metabolism because you've had a history of calorie restriction could also be a factor. Potential decrease in all nutrients. So oftentimes what people kind of forget is that when they just simply eat less, we also are taking in less of those micronutrients as well that help to support the fat loss journey. So we need to make sure we're also accounting for those lost nutrients, increased hunger, increased stress on the body, and then hormone balance concerns. All of these we're going to get into when we talk about the specific supplements right now. So there are supplements that actually can help with the different considerations when you have a fat loss goal, when you are focused on primarily burning fat and maintaining muscle. And the first one that I wanted to talk about is magnesium. And that's because people are often lacking this. It's simply just from nutrient poor diets or just not eating enough, or we just, the soil is simply depleted from like the food that our or the ground that our food is grown in is really depleted of magnesium. So we often lack magnesium. It's not that magnesium specifically helps you like burn more fat, but what it does do is downstream benefits. So it's specifically for helping to improve like that deep, high quality sleep and also muscle recovery. Both of those are very important for fat loss because when we have poor sleep, that's actually one of the biggest contributing factors to increase insulin resistance, increase hunger, increase cravings, all the things that are not going to support a immediate or a long-term fat loss journey. And then, of course, if you are exercising, then you likely have increased magnesium needs because you have, you're more likely to get like muscle cramps from the increased exercise. So that's where magnesium also helps you to better recover from your workout so you can continue to perform without having to like halt what you're doing. So magnesium is one that I personally take. It's one that a lot of my clients take and a lot of the A and peeps take because it does help to support not only long-term health, but these downstream impacts that do like the improved sleep, improved muscle recovery that are really helpful from a fat loss perspective and kind of putting in those pieces of the puzzle. Okay, and then protein powder. This is probably the most obvious one, especially for making sure you're actually hitting your protein needs, making sure that you're not feeling hungry, that you're helping to support your muscle and protecting your muscle during the fat loss process. Getting enough protein in general is so important for making sure that you're not losing muscle while you're burning fat. You can lose weight and lose a lot of muscle at the same time, which slows the metabolism. We don't want that. We want to make sure that we're prioritizing for fat loss. And that's where making sure that we're optimizing for how much protein our body truly needs to prevent that muscle loss is crucial. So obviously you're going to get most of your protein from your food, but some people have a hard time getting that in. That's where supplementing it, not replacing all of it, but supplementing it with protein powder as well can be very, very, very helpful for hitting those needs. So a few things that you want to consider when you are looking for protein powder. Obviously, the quality. It needs to be like a well-studied, high-quality, very digestible type of protein. I mean, you guys know I'm super biased because I do have my own protein powder, but that is why we use 100% whey protein isolate because it's just considered the gold standard when it comes to like recovery, body composition. It's one of the most studied, if not the most studied protein on the market, and is generally the highest quality, highest diaz protein. So really, really great from that perspective. And then GI health is another thing you need to consider when looking at the ingredients for protein powder. So if you are sensitive to dairy or if you're sensitive to especially lactose, you want to make sure you're looking for 100% whey protein isolate. Always avoid the whey concentrates or milk protein concentrate, which are a lot higher in casein and a lot higher in like lactose, both which can cause GI distress for people. Whey isolate is essentially like very, very, very low, minimal amounts of both of those. So it does better for people with their GI health, but also looking at other ingredients like sugar alcohols. So erythritol, sorbitol, all of these like OL ingredients, if it ends in OL, it's probably a sugar alcohol. That tends to cause GI distress for a lot of people, like bloating, diarrhea, gas, things that just, it's not necessarily hindering a fat loss goal, but it does impact your day-to-day life. You don't want to feel like bloated and get diarrhea or constipation for that matter, while you're also burning fat. You want to be able to have the benefits of both a good gut health and be burning fat. So look out for some of those, especially if you're sensitive. And yeah, so making sure you have high quality protein and that it is free of like sugar alcohols. Those are some of the biggest things. Sugar content, making sure it's preferably zero added sugar, and making sure that you're using it properly. So it's actually supplementing your diet. It's not replacing all of your protein. So the way I like to use protein powder, the way I only recommend really using our protein powder, or all protein powder for that matter, is putting it with food and not just having it on its own. So like I have a lot of smoothies. I'm pretty like infamous for it at this point, of making a lot of protein smoothies and mixing it with things like Greek yogurt and chia seeds, high quality fats like almond butters or coconut butter or peanut butter, things that will make it a true meal, and you get the diversity of micronutrients that also mix well with the protein too. So want to make sure you're always having it with a meal or built into the meal, like a smoothie or like a protein pancake or protein waffle, and not just having it like in a shaker bottle with some water. Okay. And then obviously, like I said, I'm super biased. I'm not going to pretend I'm not, but that is why we specifically created our protein powder to be 100% whey protein isolate, to optimize for the highest quality protein and to make sure that it is best from a gut health perspective, to factor in all of those lower lactose benefits. And then we have zero added sugar. We only use 100% monk fruit extract, which is a natural zero added sugar sweetener. And we don't use stevia or erythritol because of the gut health concerns, especially with the erythritol or sugar alcohols. And it actually tastes good. So it'll taste good in the recipes too. So I think we have it linked down description below. If not, you can find it on our website at autumnlnutrition.shop. So autumn, ELLE, nutrition.shop. Okay. So then the next thing that we want to look at as possibly being beneficial from a fat loss journey perspective is collagen/gelatin. They're not the same thing, but they have a lot of the same benefits. So they are incomplete proteins. That's the first thing you need to make sure you realize, that you can't just replace your like protein powder or other protein sources with collagen, because collagen is an incomplete protein, so it won't have the same benefits. However, it does have a lot of other benefits that could be great from a fat loss journey, also from a general health perspective. So it's specifically found in like animal tendons, skin, bone, connective tissue. So if you eat a lot of like bone broth or bone on meat, then you might not need a supplement. But if you don't, that's where collagen or gelatin could be useful, because it does help to support satiety, or that sensation of feeling full, especially when you pair it with other proteins. So like if you pair it with a whey protein or you stir it into your Greek yogurt bowl. I have a recipe in the 6-week summer meal plan where you put the like in a Greek yogurt bowl protein powder as well as collagen. You stir that in and it's so satisfying, and you get all the additional benefits of the collagen and gelatin, like the joint health. I put joint health, it's joint health, skin health, and gut health. There's also a recipe in the 6-week summer meal plan that's linked down description below, where you can make gummy bears out of it. Super delicious. So another way to get that in as like a nice, fun, natural supplement / also like kind of a dessert. Okay, next up is creatine. You guys have heard me talk a lot about it. I think you've seen like everybody talk a lot about creatine at this point. I first started taking creatine after my first baby about 2 years ago, and it did wonders from a fat loss journey perspective, but also for like my brain health, my memory, being able to connect words from my brain to my mouth, especially postpartum. It really helped for my like mommy brain. So that was the number one reason why I wanted to start taking it. But as a like side effect, which is really usually what most people are looking for, it really helped to boost my exercise performance, which helped me to see better fat loss results too. Because when we are looking to optimize our exercise, it helps us to also get the positive downstream effects of burning more fat as fuel, because we're getting more bang for our buck out of our exercise. We're able to challenge our muscles more. We're able to push ourselves in a positive way more with our exercise, so that we can help to get more of that lean muscle mass that supports the metabolism too. I noticed when I was doing more strength training, especially after I incorporated the creatine, because I was getting better results from my workouts, where I was able to have like a little bit more fuel in my tank because of the creatine. That I saw, I think it was like about a 2 pound additional fat loss specific benefit after incorporating it because I was getting more out of my workouts. So that's how creatine can be helpful. It's not like creatine makes you burn fat, but it helps you get more out of your exercise, as well as all the positive benefits of brain health, mental health, memory, all that. So typically you'll see like 5 grams per day is what's studied as beneficial, although there's some like wild ranges out there, like the recent study you guys probably also have heard of I think it's 20 grams people are taking, or that they took for those who have Alzheimer's. I mean, that's a specific use case and hasn't been studied as extensively, but 5 grams is usually what you see is needed in order to see the benefits. That's what I personally take. Okay, next up, we have electrolytes. So again, this is kind of similar to creatine where it's indirectly beneficial. So if we can optimize our exercise, make us feel more energized and just be able to get more out of our workout when we are working out, if that is part of your fat loss journey, which it is generally recommended, and especially strength training, so you can help to protect the muscle during the fat loss process, then electrolytes is another thing that can really help with that, because can help with exercise performance, preventing cramps, helping to improve your energy levels, because you are actually properly hydrated. We need more than just water when we are looking at hydration, and that's where the electrolytes come in to help to balance out all aspects of hydration. So I personally notice also, especially for myself and clients, that it helps with gut health too, because it helps to make it so that you aren't going to be like constipated or experience issues along those lines. So mental clarity, support metabolic function because of the electrolytes and how they interact with how we're actually burning fat as fuel down at like the cellular level. So I personally take Element, but really like electrolytes in any form is going to be beneficial. Okay, and then L-theanine, again, indirectly, how L-theanine can help you. L-theanine is a natural amino acid that's found in specifically green tea, and it does help to support stress reduction. So one thing that can be halting people from achieving their fat loss goal is stress and an imbalance of stress where they're just excessively over stressed. And if that's the case, it can cause cortisol to be really high. It can increase insulin resistance. It can make you crave sugar, can make you crave foods that work against your goals. It can make your sleep quality really poor. So you want to make sure that if that's the case, you're balancing out your stress levels as well. One, at least from a supplemental perspective, L-theanine has been studied to be helpful for that. There are a couple different things that have been studied for stress, like ashwagandha is another one, or obviously like CBD, some people will take. I have tried them all. The only one that I personally saw benefit from for my stress and anxiety levels was L-theanine. So if that's something that you are struggling with your fat loss journey, then something like L-theanine could be beneficial. And of course, some of these can interact with different medications. So if you are on certain medications, make sure to always check with your doctor. You just want to make sure there's no drug nutrient interaction before you try any of these. Which, speaking of berberine, I've personally never taken berberine, but I wanted to bring this one up because there is some studied research on it. So it's extracted from plants. In fact, let me know in the chat if you guys have ever heard of berberine or if you're taking it yourself. But it's getting a lot of attention right now, especially in the last few years. So what it specifically it can be helpful for is if insulin resistance is an issue. So the benefits of berberine that they are finding in research is that it can help in blood sugar lowering. It can help in improving insulin sensitivity. And from specifically trying to burn fat as fuel, that's where if you are struggling with insulin resistance, that's something that does need to be addressed. We can do that via a lot of different ways. We don't have to just be taking berberine, obviously, but with your exercise, getting outside and walking is a huge one, especially after meals, and making the proper food choices that help to balance blood sugar. However, there are some people who have seen benefits with berberine, so I just wanted to make sure I added that one in, but definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution. Okay, coffee. Now, not a supplement, but I know a lot of people will use caffeine because they want it as like a either pre-workout or as a natural appetite suppressant. But I always recommend to my clients in the community, if you're going to use caffeine in any way, use it in coffee or tea for that matter. But coffee generally has a little bit more caffeine than tea. So, coffee short term can reduce appetite, but this isn't really the reason why you want to use caffeine. Because when you look at the research on the appetite suppression with coffee or with caffeine in general, the effect really stalls over time. Like it can work in the beginning, but then over time, you don't really get that same appetite suppressing benefit. So it can't be relied on. It's not something that you really want to focus on. However, depending on the person, modest intake can actually help with your exercise performance. And that goes back to like creatine or electrolytes, where you get these downstream benefits of using these foods, not necessarily because they burn fat, but because they help your body to be able to get into a state where you can burn fat easier. Like for this example, being able to get more out of your exercise. So I did say some people this can work for, because there is a category of people where having coffee or caffeine before your workout can actually make your workout worse. I am one of those people. I do not do well with having caffeine before my workout. It's generally if you are a slow metabolizer. So if you find that it takes you a long time to break down caffeine and you feel the effects of caffeine for a long time, you probably won't do as well with your workout having caffeine before. But if you are like a average metabolizer or a fast metabolizer, then having something like coffee before your workout could help you to either like see less fatigue, so you can do more during your workout, or you might have a little more energy to do your workout. Again, to see more out of the benefits of your workout. Now, the reason why I always recommend coffee or tea over something like a pre workout is because caffeine has these great benefits from an exercise perspective, even from being able to like use your brain a little better perspective. But also, it has some negative impacts too, where it can cause some damage to the body. So we want to balance that out and at least have the antioxidants that are very, very prevalent in coffee to help counter some of those negative side effects of caffeine. And coffee is so rich in antioxidants. In fact, it is probably the most antioxidant rich thing that you are taking in every single day. So it can help from balancing out the caffeine, but also to help support liver health too. Again, we're looking at making sure that we're using the types of foods and supplements that not only help support a fat loss goal, but general wellness too. The biggest thing with coffee or tea for that matter is you also want to make sure that you're getting unsweetened, because when you add sugar in, it's now no longer going to be as beneficial from a fat loss perspective. That's where the sugar sweetened beverages can really spike our blood sugar levels, really spike insulin, and get you out of that state of fat burning pretty easily and make it harder, really like start to increase your sugar cravings over time as well. So you're like fighting an uphill battle because you're always going to be craving sugar the more often you're having something like a sweetened beverage, like adding sugar to your coffee. Personally, in order to optimize for antioxidants, I personally use Purity Coffee. Been talking about them for like 8 years. I like first started using them literally when they first came out. Love them, have not changed since. And I don't think I have them linked below, but if you are looking for like the most antioxidant rich coffee, that's a great option to check out. Okay, now I want to mention like these other fat burners that you've probably seen, because they will often be advertised on like maybe you see it in an ad or you see it in a blog or on Instagram, people talking about these different fat burner supplements. Often they are just relying on caffeine in order to temporarily speed up your metabolism or to temporarily suppress the appetite. But typically that's all these really are just an extreme appetite suppressant, and you get the same negative impacts that you would with just typical calorie restriction in that case. Because if you're just eating less, which is ultimately what they're relying on with a lot of these like fat burners, then it can result pretty quickly in muscle loss and then therefore the slower metabolism, and then make it so much easier to gain back the weight. So I just always want you to keep your eye out for these like different fat burners. If it's just talking about like speeding up your metabolism or like suppressing your appetite, then it's probably not going to be something that works for overall long-term benefits. Always look to see if it supports other aspects of your health too, like what we talked about with these downstream benefits of things like creatine or magnesium, or even caffeine for that matter from coffee. Okay. And then I wanted to also just share the ones that I'm currently using just so you guys could like get an idea of my routine and maybe something that might work for you. But obviously I use protein powder. I use it every day. I use it in multiple different forms depending on the day. So I might have it in my chocolate milk or protein hot chocolate that I pair with a meal. I might have a protein pancake or protein waffle. I might make a smoothie or stir it in, especially the vanilla protein powder, into my yogurt in order to bump up the protein and also add like a nice little sweet vanilla flavor. And then I take magnesium every single night. I notice a huge difference when I don't take magnesium in my sleep quality. So that's a big one that I'm definitely not missing. I take creatine, although I just restarted taking creatine. I wasn't taking it when I was pregnant because for some people, it can cause temporary like nausea or gut distress, especially when you first start taking it. I was one of those people. I noticed when I first started taking creatine, it like upset my stomach a little bit. And I was already so nauseous during pregnancy that I was like, I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to take that right now. I don't want more nausea at that point. But now I'm taking it again to help support getting back into exercise postpartum for my own fat loss journey too. And then vitamin D3 and K2. This one is not necessarily from a fat loss perspective, but goes back to that sunlight issue. A lot of you know I had the history of being like vegetarian and not really having any type of milk growing up. So my teeth are horrible because of that. And I don't want to have issues of bone loss when I'm older. So to help support my bones, my teeth, all that, I supplement with vitamin D3 and K2. Take electrolytes to help support my hydration and also to prevent muscle cramps. And then I do take a whole food multivitamin, Gem. If you guys have seen my videos, where they're a sponsor, love them. It actually tastes great and it's using whole foods. So it's awesome. And then there's specific use cases for different things that I will use. So oregano oil, I'll only really use this if I'm sick to help get over a cold faster. I pair it with just raw garlic, not for the faint of heart because both of that combination is intense. But for myself personally, I get over a cold so much faster when I use those. Probiotic, specifically during pregnancy, I do take it, but also I had the stomach flu. It was during pregnancy, but I had the stomach flu, and in order to help recover my gut after that, I did end up taking a probiotic for a month, and it did really help. I'm not usually a big fan of probiotics, but especially in those two cases, it was very beneficial. Prenatal, obviously during pregnancy, iodine during pregnancy to help support fetal growth. And then L-theanine, really only when I'm stressed. I don't take it as much anymore. I used to take it a lot when my anxiety levels were pretty high, and it was very helpful for me. But that's my general supplement routine. So it's not a ton of different things, just a few things to help support these different aspects of my general fat loss wellness goals, and then some for other specific use cases. Okay, guys. So I'm going to answer some questions. Make sure you put 4 question marks before and after so I can more easily find it. But if you guys want to check out the brand new limited release 6-week summer meal plan, all focused on body recomposition, but while using the healthiest foods in the world that are really nutrient dense and support overall nourishment and wellness too, make sure you check out my 6-week summer meal plan. It's linked down description below. So many delicious recipes, especially my all-time favorite is the lentil bruschetta bowl, which is right here, but also like that protein yogurt bowl I mentioned right here. So good, but all of them amazing, so delicious, so easy, and toddler friendly. My almost 2-year-old, I can't believe she's almost 2, also loves all the recipes as well. But yeah, if you want to grab it, link down description below, only available for a short time. And once it's gone, it's gone. Okay, I'm going to go through and answer some questions. So if you have questions, make sure to put 4 question marks before and after. Let me see. Yeah, I do get this comment occasionally. I think you've commented this a couple of times, just how I talk. However, you can click the like slow down button because I know some people love that I talk fast, some don't, which is totally fine. Not for everyone. That's okay. There's a little like wheel though at the bottom, I think right hand corner of the screen. And if you click that, you can click the playback settings to slow me down a little bit. So that's helpful if you have that specific preference. Hello, everybody. Camille, yeah, my chickens were going off in the background. Yes, the chickens can be heard. Well, thankfully, they weren't going that whole time because sometimes when they lay an egg, they will be squawking for like 30 minutes. So thankfully, it was short. Okay, yeah, so this is a good point. So Brody is saying magnesium glycinate will help you sleep a lot better than magnesium oxide. I personally take one that's a mixture of, I think, three different magnesiums. There's a lot of different types of magnesium. Some are going to be better than others. There's also the very expensive magnesium L-threonate, which is substantially more expensive, although tends to absorb better than all of the others. It just depends on, you could test out different ones, see what does well for you. I haven't tested out the magnesium glycinate on its own or L-threonate. So I do want to test those out, but I just have a pretty simple, pretty inexpensive one, and it's worked for me for years. Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. You're the best. You've taught me so much and have helped me immensely after double spinal surgery. Wow. Well, I hope that you're healing well. It's amazing. Which protein powder do you use? My own. So, like I mentioned, I'm totally biased, but I did create our protein powder. It was literally like I created the formulation in my kitchen, did all the testing myself. A lot of companies will just use like people to put together a formula for them. I had very specific things that I wanted out of my protein powder. And a lot of people weren't willing to do it because a lot of other manufacturers will do just like a combination of whey isolate and whey concentrate because it makes it a lot cheaper for them to produce. That's why you'll often see like a mixture if they use whey isolate, which is the higher quality, more pure protein. They'll often mix it with something like a whey concentrate because it's so much cheaper, but it's so much higher in things like casein and in lactose that can cause GI distress for people. So for me, it's not worth it. Like we went for only using 100% whey protein isolate and only using monk fruit extract for our zero sugar sweetener because I wanted to optimize for gut health too. I have such an extensive history of bloating, GI distress that I didn't want to mess with that. I wanted the best option for myself selfishly, but also for all of my AEM peeps as well. And things like erythritol or the other sugar alcohols can cause bloating for so many people. And then stevia just, I don't think tastes good, has a weird bitter aftertaste. So we went with all the 100% pure stuff. Uh, okay, good question. Maggie, does whey come off during the straining process while making yogurt through a Greek yogurt strainer? Yeah, so there actually is, it's pretty much all whey that is, I mean, there's more to it than that. There's a lot of lactose in there too. But when you make something like yogurt, if you guys have seen me make yogurt before in my video, you can just Google it or YouTube it. It's like just search how to make Greek yogurt. I'm pretty sure my video is the first one that pops up. But when you go to strain the yogurt to make it from yogurt to Greek yogurt, you do get something called whey water. And that's one of the ways that whey protein is made. It's from that process where you're actually getting it from the full like whole food dairy product, but then it's just isolated out further. So you're just getting the protein and you're not getting like the lactose and the casein as well, which both can cause GI distress for people. So it's more concentrated in the actual protein portion. But a lot of people will use like the whey water that's left behind from making something like Greek yogurt and use a splash of it in their smoothies for their liquid base. So if you want to do that, you totally can too, especially if casein or lactose aren't an issue for you. Although it's not going to be super dense in protein, but it can help to contribute a bit. I'm not sure on the exact amount, like per like how much the liquid would actually have, how many grams of protein. But I do know it's going to have a mix of the casein, the whey, as well as a significant amount of lactose. Maggie, I love your protein powder. Thank you. Yeah, and as Brody says, I find collagen powder clumps. I like to just make bone broth. I actually haven't seen collagen powder clump too much for me. It usually mixes pretty well. I'm not sure which brand you're using, but you could totally just get the collagen from something like bone broth or gelatin for that matter. That's where the true meaning of a supplement comes in. It's meant to supplement your diet. So if you aren't able to get those foods in your diet, then you can supplement your diet with something like collagen. Uh, Another good question. Elizabeth, are L-theanine and berberine only supplements or can they be found naturally in food? L-theanine specifically is found in green tea. It's not nearly as concentrated. So I think you'd have to drink like 10 cups a day. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's like 10 cups a day of green tea in order to get the same benefits of like one of the L-theanine supplements where I think it's about 1 or 200 milligrams of L-theanine. So you can, but you'd have to have quite a bit. Berberine, I'm not as familiar with it. So I believe it is derived from plants, but I'm not sure which plant specifically or how widely available that is. Hmm. Okay, yeah, another good point. I've heard that your vitamin D can be stored for months, so I try to get lots of sun in summer. Absolutely, it is stored for months, so that is like a great benefit of that. However, if you aren't able to get in the sun and get that absorption from the sun, that's where something like vitamin D, taking a vitamin D can be very helpful. Some people, even if they're getting a lot of sun, aren't able to convert it very well. So that's where taking a vitamin D3 supplement would also be good. Just from my experience where I thought I was really healthy and there's no way that I'd have low vitamin D levels. And I think it was like 8 or 10 years ago, I took a vitamin D test and I had critically low vitamin D where I had to take a supplement, even though I was outside all the time. It's worth just getting checked because low vitamin D levels is such a risk factor for so many diseases. Uh, I have a question about your whey protein powder. How are the expiration dates on them? I want to purchase 2 of each flavor, but don't want to if they expire fast. So the it depends on the lot number, but the expiration dates are, I think it's on the back of it, and it's usually a year. So as long as you go through it within a year, then you should be good. But you can also email us and we can double check that for you too. So our email is info@autumnlnutrition.com. So info@autumn, ELLE nutrition.com. How much magnesium do you take? I personally take 500 milligrams, although depending on the type you take, you might not need to take as much. So something like the glycinate or the L-threonate, not as familiar with the dosing. You might need to take less because I believe it is absorbed at a higher rate. But yeah, I personally take 500 milligrams. When do you consume creatine, before or after workout? I just take it first, or not first thing in the morning. I take it along with my electrolytes. So it's usually after breakfast. But with creatine, it's not like caffeine where you want to dose it to get the benefits, like where you feel the energy from the caffeine for your workout. You are essentially just topping off your reserves, your fuel reserves of creatine. So as long as you're just taking it consistently, that's the bigger factor than the specific timing of when you're taking creatine. Okay. When can we get your protein powders in the UK? I don't know. I will have to talk to my husband about that because he's the operations guy for everything that goes on here. I do know it's quite tricky just from international shipping perspectives, but we have been trying to look into it, but it's definitely there's a lot that goes into it. We would love to be able to ship internationally like right away. We get so many questions about that and we really want to be able to send it internationally to you guys, but there's just a lot of like red tape that we have to first figure out. Okay, what brand of collagen do you recommend? I don't have like a specific preference. Ones that I've used in the past and have enjoyed are the unflavored multi-collagen with ancient nutrition. And then even just the vital proteins is a good option, the unflavored option. But I haven't tested out too many different ones. I don't avidly take collagen personally. I just will use it here and there. But those are the two I've used in the past and have worked out pretty well. All right, guys. Well, this was definitely an information jam-packed one. I hope you got a lot of good tips out of this, and you're able to maybe like pick out some things that will work for you and your goals. But otherwise, next week we have week 5 of the summer challenge. So we have another live stream on Monday. So make sure you tune in for that at 1 p.m. PST on Monday. And make sure you grab the 6-week summer meal plan before it's gone. There's only a couple more weeks left to grab it with so much information, 6 weeks of meal planning, over 50 brand new, delicious, and very simple recipes. So make sure you grab that. I have it linked down description below. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.